Hello, this is Luke Turner, and welcome to Building a Web App from Scratch, Part 10. Starting a bit late today, I kind of lost track of time this morning, apparently. Seems like I should be setting some kind of alarm for this thing. Anyway, I'm here now. I'll probably still be going till 2, so this will be a slightly shorter stream than last, but we can still make some progress. Okie doke. Let's see. So, let's start with starting up the app. First, I got to run Podman. Okay, then run the database container. Run the client code. Open a new tab and run the server code. And then I can open it in the browser. I was just eating some Indian food, so if I have a bit of phlegm sounding, that's probably why. Okie doke. So, to recap what we did last time, we updated the Today UI so that it has this kind of tabular format for configuring things. So, if I'm doing dumbbell curls, I just select that from the dropdown, and then I fill out the values, and then they get saved. So now if I refresh the page, those values are populated in there. There was a considerable amount of AJAX type stuff that was needed for that. And so we didn't really get to actually the UI parts of it too much, but we're setting up the framework for having a more interactive UI, I guess is how I would put it. So one of the things I want to do now as well actually is get some more realistic testing exercises in here. So let's just, also let's fix this first. What's going on here? Exercises.parameters.find is not an object. So this view is throwing an error when the exercises is not an array. Let's fix that. So, a couple thoughts here. Let's actually look at the code for creating a new exercise and see if there's any possibility of it not being an array when the exercise is created. So post exercise, so it inserts it with name and user. And yeah, there's no parameter set in here at all. I feel like the thing that I want to do is actually, let's look at the post. So the post sets parameters always to at least an empty array. The insert should also probably just set parameters to an empty array for now. Fixing that little issue. The problem is that's not going to fix it for the existing parameters. So, let's see here. Also, I'm thinking if we actually look at this exercise page, the list page here, there's no delete button for these exercises, is there? That's on this page. So I could delete these from the database, or I could just temporarily fix this issue here, like so, and kind of redo that in all of these places where exercise.parameters is being checked. And maybe that will fix it. Okay, so now it's struggling to evaluate this. I wonder if that's going to work. Okay, so that does work. Then I have to do the same thing here. Oops. And presumably the same thing here. Okie doke. So now the page will actually render, and I can just go ahead and delete these exercises. And I'm just cleaning up some of these because they're not really, I was just testing the exercise creation logic. They're not really good examples. And then I could undo all those changes in here. And maybe I will actually. So if I just revert all of the changes in this file, that's fine. Kind of the idea is that the exercises should always have at least an empty array of parameters. And so we don't really need to code around the possibility of there not being an array there anymore. So like say I create a new exercise here called interval sprints. So if I go edit here, the page renders even though there's no parameters selected. So we fix that bug. And so interval sprints is an example exercise here. It's going to have distance, presumably, actually probably duration, and reps, and not really intensity, because interval sprints, it's always max intensity is kind of the idea. And then for dumbbell curl, we can fix this one so, it just has weight and reps. And we can create a new one where it's, maybe just push-ups. And kind of the idea here is by having some more realistic examples, we can sort of see better what the UI is actually going to look like for a real user, instead of just with these like extreme examples where there's either a ton of parameters or no parameters. So push-ups is like just reps. And, maybe somebody has weight if they're doing a weighted push-up, but for now we're just going to assume that it's just reps. Doesn't really matter. Kind of the idea is that users can decide, what they want the parameters to be for each of these. Let's do like jogging. And that one we can give a distance. And a duration, I guess. Why not? And we could do just like stretching, which is kind of a special case where we're just going to have intensity, where it's like, how intense was your stretching? In theory, somebody could be more specific here, of course, but let's not get into that too much. I kind of just want an example of an exercise where it's only intensity, and that's what came to mind. And then, maybe we could do another one where it's like, assisted pull-ups, say. And the assisted pull-ups, that's going to have assisted weight and reps. Okay, so we've got some examples. So let's go back to the Today page now. So already we can see something a little interesting here, where if you only have a couple parameters, it looks like they're filling the space instead of having like a max width on these cells. So let's open the Bulma docs again. We're using this smart grid functionality. And so with this, it's like the cells are filling the space of the row, whereas we kind of want them to have like a max width associated with them. I wonder if there is a class for that in Bulma, or we might have to make our own. There's a minimum width, which is fine. What about fixed grid? Oh, that's a fixed number of columns. That's not what we want. We want a fixed size for our columns. Nothing in there. If we look at the spacing, maybe? I don't think there's anything here though. So let's make a new class of our own here. So we'll open our CSS file. And we can call this something like param cell. And we could set, a max width, we could set a min width, but really I think like just a plain old width is pretty good here because we know basically exactly how big the content of each of these cells is going to be. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is. We'll have to guess a few numbers, but the point is it's not going to change. So the param name is 5, so this is probably, actually, let's try 10. And, oh yeah, got to apply that class. Dot cell dot param cell. Is that what I called it? Yeah. Okay, that doesn't seem to have helped. So it does have the width of that element, but then the actual grid is still not spacing those out quite like I would like. It's one of the problems with using something like Bulma for layouts. I like Bulma for things like forms and typography and like the nabs and stuff like that. But when you're using like these smart grid functionalities, it can be kind of difficult to actually get it to work exactly the way that you want. And in this case, the way that we want is for this thing here to not be 100% width or something like that. So let's see if we do like set grid. And maybe we can put a style on here that's going to help with that. So let's just try something. If I do like width fit content, does that do anything interesting here? It does. It changes the width, but it's fitting the content of just one of the columns, it looks like. Which is interesting. Maybe because these cells have a declared width, so that's kind of the content that or the width that it's fitting it to, so to speak. And if we do something like width 100%, what's that going to do? Same thing it did before, because it's setting it to 100% of the width of the parent element. Yeah, not ideal. And like if we select push-ups, where there's only one element, let's actually get rid of this for a moment. Then our sizing is still kind of weird here because we've got this extra wide thing. Like it's splitting this horizontal space into two. So let's see. So one of the things I was thinking is we could have dummy rows, where it's like we could have, or cells. So we could have like empty cells for each of the things where there's actually nothing rendered, and then they'll be consistently spaced. The problem with that is when it starts to shrink, and when it starts to actually wrap like this, those dummy cells are going to wrap too, and it's going to produce unwanted spacing, vertical spacing. So that's not a really good option. It's possible that the fixed grid could actually help. I'm kind of curious to try that. Let's try the fixed grid. So in this case, there would be, it looks like the fixed grid is a parent element to the grid itself. Dot fixed grid. And then that would also have a has 7 calls, I think. Because we have 6 parameters, and then we do have 6 parameters, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6 parameters, and then the name. Just kind of messing with this a bit. Got to indent this all now. Boom. Okay. So now it's kind of spacing it the way we want, actually. The problem here, though, is like if we do this, it's not actually going to wrap them because it's a fixed number of columns. So what we can kind of do there maybe is have a, well, this is a little interesting, has auto count. I feel like that's going to look weird though. So we might need to kind of do some of these, and I'm kind of curious to see how this works. So like if we do tablet has 4 calls, and mobile has 2 calls, and refresh here. What's it complaining about now? I mean, what is it complaining about? The space at the end? Surely not, right? Okay, it was a space at the end. Oh dear. Okay. So now, if let's actually make another exercise where it's like everything. And this, there's no real exercise that's going to have everything probably. So I'm just going to call it something fake here. And then we'll make another exercise called nothing, just as an example as well. And that will have no parameters. Okay, so now we can kind of use those as examples as well. So if we pick everything here, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 7. Why is it wrapping those though? Is it tablet sized? Like if I change this to has 7 calls tablet, what's that going to do? Okay. Okay, I mean, that kind of makes sense. And then if I shrink it, eventually sizing here is kind of weird. Like, when does it switch to mobile? So it switches to mobile there. Whereas here, like, should be tablet. So that's like has, oh, maybe I need this to be like has 4 calls tablet and then has 7 calls desktop, perchance. Yeah, so now we've got our 7 columns. And then when we kind of shrink it down, you know, before it gets to the point where the columns start to get too weird, it starts to wrap them. And then when we shrink it down even more, it wraps them again. Seems all right. But we are having a problem now where the actual width of these fixed columns is a little bit too small for the content that we're trying to put in it. And part of that is due to this, this size here seems a little big because all of these text pieces have white space on the left side. That actually made it worse somehow. Oh, because that's the width of the whole thing. Right. So that I don't even need anymore. Yeah, okay. That's good. But now, like, so this kind of thing that it's doing here where before the breakpoint is hit, it's starting to need to resize things is something I want to avoid. So that's where I was thinking, like, if this is a maybe a 4, then you can see that it's kind of like, as we adjust the screen here, it's not wrapping each cell into multiple lines. And then as it gets smaller, it starts to wrap the cell, like the whole row, into multiple rows. I don't know. I don't really know what the terminology is here. A lot of rows and cells and lines and columns and things going on, but actually looks not bad. And this way, you know, these things here are fixed size. This one looks weird though now, doesn't match. I don't know how much time it's worth fixing all of these very specific issues here though, because the UI is still pretty Spartan and we'll probably be making even more changes to it. So this one would be like, is flex? No. I think I would just do the actual exactly the same thing as above. So it would be like div. Oops. Yep. Div. And then form.grid. And then select.cell. And so now that, you know, it matches the same spacing as that other thing. It does have a little bit different vertical sizing for some reason. Like these are 25 pixels tall. And this one is 20 pixels tall. Probably to do with the text. And that's something that we can override easily enough, like new set create. I don't know what to call this class. Just to height. Thing is, if I do that, that's not quite what I want though. I wonder what if there's like a pixel height measure. Not really sure. It's probably not going to be right though. Yeah. I'm actually not going to worry about that for now. We can deal with that later. Because these heights are just kind of calculated automatically by the grid thing. And these, like, they have this text in it, which takes up more space, or maybe it's the input, takes up more space, and then this also kind of adjusts its height to match that, whereas this doesn't have any other cells to match, so it just is the default height of the select, I think is what's going on. Anyway, so this is kind of what I want the UI for this page to function like. But it still doesn't look very good. And there's a couple things here that I want to do. Well, one thing I want to do is this select. I want to have an option that's like add new exercise. That's selected by default. Or add new set. And then the this would be like selected true. Oh, that's not, shouldn't be in the each, should be here. And I guess because this data bind is doing that, maybe if I set this value to the empty string, it's actually going to select it by default automatically. Yeah, okay. So there's like this add new set. It explains what that dropdown is for. And you can pick which one you want. If you pick this, it should do nothing. And it's only if you pick something else that it's actually going to add a new set. Then we also want the ability to remove sets. And not sure the best way to do that. For now, I might just put like an X button, and I kind of want to put it on the left side because that's the one side where everything is consistent. Like if we put it on the right side, there would be like an X here and an X here and an X here, and that's kind of weird. It kind of interferes with the perception of a tabular layout. We could also put it like here, and that could be an option as well. But for now, I'm just going to put it on the left. So let's implement a delete set functionality first of all. So we have this sets ID delete function here, or route, I mean. And this, you know, it just accepts this ID, and it's a post, and it has no parameters in the body. So we can really do just like a single I mean, we have two options, right? We can use a form submission, or we can use JavaScript again. And my feeling is that the JavaScript might ultimately have a nicer experience because it won't have to refresh the page, but the form is going to be simpler to start with. And so that's kind of just what I'm going to start with here. So like in here, I'm going to add a another form with action post, or no, action is the URL and then method is post. And the action is /sets / plus set.id plus /delete. And then we're going to have a button in there, which like input, submit, oops, input submit. and value delete, which I'm just going to do an X for now. And this is going to be just like that, I guess, I think. Okay. And the thing I want this to do is kind of be part of that select, actually. Let's see if Bulma has a way of doing that. Sometimes there's like a way of combining form components with these libraries. My mic real fast. Okay. Let's see here. Select. So one thing is I actually don't even have that select class on these. So I wonder what happens if I add that. Makes it look like that. Pretty similar. I'm actually going to add that to all my selects on this page. Don't need the dot there. And that might kind of help with the consistent sizing stuff as well. And right, so looking for something where it's kind of got like a button on the side of the select. It doesn't look like we've got icons on the side there. Let's look at the form controls with icons. Is there like a combiner? Has add-ons on the field container. Okay. Yeah. So let's try this. So there would be like a div.field.has add-ons. And then inside there would be all of this stuff. And like actually underneath there is another div.control, right? And then this one, so like that. Let's just see how this works. And then another div.control for the actual button thing. Maybe I would do form.control, actually. Just curious to see what this looks like here. Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of combining them a little bit here. It's still looks a bit weird though. And I want this to be up here as well. See if that also looks weird. Okay, well, that kind of works, I guess. And, you know, far from perfect, but kind of by looking weird, what I mean is the controls are put next to each other, but they're not being styled in a way that combines them together. Like it should be, the border between them should be like just one border instead of two, like we're seeing here. And they also shouldn't have those like rounded, like you can see right, that little border rounding there should be gone. So I'm probably not doing this quite right. Field has add-ons. Input. Input dot button. I don't know. And if I do the input dot button, it like gets really weird. Oh, I'm curious, if I just do button.button, does that work better? Kind of. If I do div.control, does that work better? Well, it's doing something. But it's still not really right. I guess let's look at this specific example here. So there's control, select. So one thing is the select class seems to be actually on something else. Oh, and this cell would be on this thing up here. Lots of messing about. Okay, well, that's looking better actually. So now we can see the border between these two things is, it's looking right. Let's just say that. And then if I change this back to a form and I change this back to an input and I get rid of that X, is it still going to look okay? It does still look okay. Except for the fact that this is now wrapping for some reason. And like, is that something to do with the fact that that's a form? I don't really get that. Let's see. This div control. If I change that to form control, it's not, what if I just do this? Okay, I mean, that kind of works, but then we still have the wrapping issue. Right? Oh, I wonder. So the form is actually not even there. Is there some rule about forms where you can't put a form inside a form? I don't know. But what I can probably do, I guess, is have like just like another form, say up here. And then the input could be like for that form, right? There's like a target or something. Let's see. If I go input, submit, form target, then a name or keyword. No, that's not the right thing. I thought for sure there was some way of like submitting or like linking the input to a form, even if it's not a direct child of the form. Don't I do that in some other page? I did it in an old version of this page. Let's see. let's just make a work in progress commit for a moment. And then I'm going to check out a commit here. Check out to commit. So now we can see the old version of this page. So here we have a form with an ID. And then there's a button. Okay, so it's not an input submit. It's actually a button element, and it has form property on it. Let's see if I can find the documentation for that. Button element, form. Okay. Let's check out our main branch again. So basically what I'm seeing here is we can have a ID on this where it's like ID equal set plus set.id plus delete. And then you can kind of copy this. And then here, this would be a button. Form equals that. And, just put an X in there. Okay, so now let's see what happens if I click this X. Let's bring up the network tab here. It deleted it. So it calls a delete form, which then posts to this URL. And then we refresh the page and it's gone. Okay, so that kind of works. Now let's, because we're now using like the Bulma syntax or like the Bulma classes for these selects, I kind of want to start using the Bulma classes for all of the other stuff too. So let's fix some of this stuff. So one of the things is that like this select, it actually needs to be like a parent to the select, I guess. And the same thing here. This would be like a div dot all that stuff, and then this goes inside there. So now these selects are looking like they're supposed to. And we're going to have to fix some of the spacing and sizing and stuff once we do all this as well. In fact, we might want to actually make these selects a little smaller, but we can deal with that in a moment. And then we also want an input. And I'm wondering, so let's do something here. So let's update one of these inputs. I'm thinking like this assisted text could actually be maybe even an icon. And like the kilogram can actually go into the input, like on the side there where that checkbox is, maybe. And that'll kind of make these look a little bit more unified. So let's give that a shot as well. So, we would have for each parameter. So let's say for, weight and distance, it would be more like a field. Okay, well, this is going to be a bit weird, but let's give it a shot. So there's a field. And there's a label. Actually, we don't even need the label. And then there's a control. And has icons left, has icons right. Does it have to be icons? don't know. Let's see what it does if we try to put something that's not an icon. So the control has icons. Let's start with has icons right. And then we've got our input as a sub thingy of that control, a sub element, a child. And then we have a span icon as a sibling of that input. Let's just start with this. And I wonder if Pug is going to let me do that, just copy pasting. I don't know. Span.icon dot is small dot is right. And then under that is an I dot. Why isn't that doing what I would expect it to do here? So let's look at this. So there's field, control, input. I mean, oh, the input needs an input class on it as well, I guess. Okay, so now we've got the input class. And then control, div.control has icons right. And then icon is right. Let's just see. I'm curious what happens if I do that. Okay, so that, if I take out the today input, that might actually work. Okay. It kind of works. So like this could be span equals unit. Just kind of playing around here. So now we have the actual unit in the input, which looks a little better, if you ask me. Then we could also have the... Does Bulma come with icons? Are there built-in icons here? It just says it's compatible with icon libraries. I guess that's what this like FA home type of thing is it's using that font awesome icon library. So font awesome, and I'm feeling like I might actually just install this because, you know, a lot of times you want icons in your app, right? And I think this is a decent way to do it. God, there's a lot of advertising on this though. Not a fan of that. Like, what is this? Get started. Right. Okay, copy your kit's unique code. The hell? You telling me I need to put in my email here to make it work? Seems very annoying. No, I don't want a CDN. Yes, I want NPM packages. Free. Font awesome free. What is this? Fort awesome. This is a pain in the ass. Yeah, okay. Let's not worry about that for now. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting too, because like this Bulma here is talking about Font Awesome 5. And this here is Font Awesome 6. Which kind of makes me wonder, like, if there is like a Font Awesome 5, which maybe was less weird. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I'll think about that later. I'll probably pick a different icon library that actually is easier to use. In the past, I feel like there's one, it's called like Tabler Icons that I've used before. And this one I think is just like a regular MIT licensed icon library. Maybe this will be better. No, I don't want to buy crap. I just want to use your icons. Okay. So you can install it. Yeah, I want this. I want this, but I don't necessarily want it loading from a CDN. But we'll just start with that. The reason I don't like loading from a CDN is it's just another dependency on some kind of other thing out there. Where if that CDN is down, or, you know, if I want to test my app locally without internet for some reason, I don't know why that would be a thing. But the CDN just feels like an additional dependency. Has some advantages as well, of course, where it's like if people have already loaded this file from that CDN in the past, their browser might have cached it and so they won't have to load it again on our site. But I'll just add a quick note about that here. Note. Stop loading tabler icons from CDN. In theory, what you can do instead is actually install that package here. And like, for instance, with Bun, there's like a front-end bundling thing where you can have like an HTML document referencing CSS files in, like, say, your node modules, and it'll actually be bundled up into like a standard CSS file. But because we're not using the bundling stuff and we don't really want to, what we would need to do is actually install that package and then like copy that CSS into our public directory. And then, you know, kind of redo that each time. So we could set that up. It's not like we can't, but I kind of want to make sure that this is actually working before I, you know, get too far into messing with it. So, okay. So let's say we're going to make another one for the left here. Has icons left. And this will be is left. And under here will be an I. And it will have something looking like this. So TI and then like TI something or other. Whatever the icon actual name is. And so, you know, suppose, well, let's just actually try with this one. Just want to see what it looks like here. Okay, so, you know, we've got our little icon in there. And so kind of what I'm thinking is like, it would be nice to have, say, an icon for distance, an icon for assisted, an icon for weight. And then that's kind of, you know, we could actually get rid of that text and it would make this all that much more terse, right? And I'm sure there's, let's see if there's like a search. I want a search thing. Yeah, browse. So first of all, I wonder if we have things for like kilogram and pound. Doesn't look like it. Those would just be like text icons, so it makes sense. We don't really need that. Like weight could be like that, for example. So let's just see what that, so that would be like TI weight. Yeah, so now like that's like that. Of course, we would need different ones for each of the different parameter names. And that's kind of where we're starting to get into this conditional logic is getting to be pretty messy here. So really this like a lot of this is going to be the same no matter what the parameter data type is. What's going to change is actually this will change based on the parameter data type. The parameter name we aren't even going to need anymore. And then this will also change based on the parameter data type. which maybe I'll just do like a if thing here. If parameter dot name or dot ID is weight, then that, and then I'll just do an else for now with the table or brand icon so you can kind of see the default. And the unit I mean, we could put that all into there. And then this all would be like that. So if it's duration, then input.input. And I mean, these, let's just do this here as well. And we'll probably need to adjust this some. Min. And this would be parameter ID duration. Then we would want it to be something like a clock, maybe. Yep, just TI clock. I could do parameter. I might as well just fill these out. If it's assisted, then we need something. And so like assisted would be something like a buoy, like a life, like a one of those life ring things. What are those even called? Life buoy? I don't know. Kind of the important thing with when you're picking icons, in my experience, is it's not so much a matter of picking the perfect icon as much as it is having a really consistent usage of that icon throughout your app. So like in this case, for example, on this page, we're using these icons to represent like this icon for weight. We need to also use that same icon like over here next to weight to help the person understand, okay, weight is this icon, if that makes sense. And, you know, if we could have like a hover over thing or something that would help explain that as well, if the person's like, well, what does that icon mean? They could like figure that out somehow. Is something we could add later as well. But okay, so we've got duration with a clock, and we don't really need the else. And then we've got intensity here. Again, indent that twice. And we, can put our icons. And for this one, like there is no right icon for intensity because it doesn't have like a unit, so to speak. So we're just going to have the left one, and we don't need an if at all, really. And intensity, I mean, what would that be? Like a graph, maybe? And then this else is going to be, or basically reps. So let's just do that here as well. And this would be, what should reps be? something that indicates like a number. I actually kind of like this graph, chart line. Something that indicates a number, like octothorpe. I guess what would they call it? Pound sign? Number? I'm thinking of like the thing with the, like one of those. I wonder if I just did like a span with one of those in it. Okay, let's see what we've got here. So definitely some things are messed up. So we've got duration. We don't have anything for distance, which makes sense. So we have weight, intensity. We need another else if parameter .ad equals distance. Then something. Ooh, I actually like that one for intensity. Activity. Activity. And then distance. I mean, there's probably nothing called, well, ruler. I don't know. That could work. Ruler 3. It's a bit of a literalist interpretation, but there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. Why is it still not showing up? Distance. Oh, I need the TI-ruler 3. Righto. Okay, so we've got distance, duration, intensity, assistance, weight, and now the reps one is still funky. So what's wrong with that? This needs to have a dot input on it. And I think get rid of the today input on it as well. Okay, and then also, so like this one doesn't have an icon right. Unless we actually put a icon right, that's just the text reps. I'm curious how that'll look. Similar to we have like min, like technically the unit for reps is like reps. Reps, kilograms, assisted kilograms, min. Yeah, I mean, it kind of works, right? Okay. And so then another thing I don't really like with this X is it's like it's got too much drop shadow on it compared to the other inputs. Like it, the drop shadow on it is darker and the border doesn't quite match. Not sure if there's an easy way to fix that, but I also want to change this to is danger, which is going to make that maybe a lot less obvious. Yeah, now it kind of looks like it fits in better, even though, it also stands out more. And instead of just an X in there, we can actually put an icon. Is there like a delete icon? Circle minus, that one seems to work. I wonder, I guess I would need to put a I in there. TI circle minus. There's probably like a specific thing for like a button with an icon in it. Yeah. Wrap the inner text in a separate span element. Okay, so there would be like span, icon, icon small, and then put the icon in there like that. Yeah. Yeah. Except I almost want that to be, can I make it medium? Can I make it a little bigger? No. Okay. Well, whatever. I kind of want an icon that's like a little bit more visible. Like just an X. The circle minus, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what it is in there. Okay. So now we kind of have this stuff going on. And if I shrink it, it's still working fine, more or less. It's a little bit of oddness, but nothing major. One thing too, though, like when I'm shrinking this, like these buttons are running right up against the edge of the screen. And what that's kind of telling me is like this block content, I should probably have a bit of margin on that. So like in here, if I did like even just like an M1, it's going to give us just that little bit of space where it doesn't feel like we're being crowded too much. And maybe I'll turn M2, see what that looks like. Yeah. Or like MX2. Don't really need the vertical one. Yeah. Okay, that seems good. This add new set thing is messed up somehow though, I notice. I think because I'm trying to resize it and div.select.cell. Maybe if I do div.cell and then div.select. Yeah, okay. So now it's, putting that, I think that little arrow is probably a piece of content, like an element that's being added by the CSS dynamically, like after the select. Yeah, with this like : after thing. So by having the cell and the select on the same div, it's actually putting that little arrow after the cell itself, which isn't quite right. We want that to be in the cell, which is why we need to nest those again. And again, I kind of wish that it lined up better with the other things, but that's okay. I kind of want to give this like a margin on here as well. I guess I would put it on this maybe, like dot margin 4. What does that look like? Or yeah, margin X or margin left 4, let's say. Let's do margin left 6. Still not quite right. Kind of hoping to match it up with the ones above it, but it's probably not going to be possible to do that exactly. So I'm actually, because I can't match it up exactly, I'm not going to try to make it really close, but I do want it to be a little bit indented as well. Actually, I wonder if I do like, what if I indented a lot? What is 8, not 1? What are our options here? Spacing. Yeah, so it just goes up to 6. I guess. So if I did that, it's kind of like that, which I don't really like. Maybe, maybe I'll actually make a control here. Div dot field, and then like label dot label, add new set, and then div dot control. And then get rid of the margin. And then is there a way to have that be, you know, have the label and the form be, or the label and the control be on the same line horizontally? Is horizontal. Okay, so that, okay, so I think what we can see here is that that probably did actually work in terms of making it horizontal. The problem is that it's being wrapped anyway because of this grid stuff. And that does kind of make me think that as long as we're not trying to line it up precisely with what's on top, we don't really need any of that grid stuff anyway. So let's just do it like that. But we do need the form still. Those need to be in the form. And then this all needs to be outdented one. Yes. Right? So form field is horizontal. Oh, and then this needs to be under there as well. And that doesn't really look right at all, does it? I guess I need a div.field label for this thing. Oops, just indent that. And is normal. And then why is it all putting it over there now? I guess that's what it's doing here too. It's got the form kind of on the right, and then the text is right aligned, which is okay. But it makes me think that I actually want this to be, like I can just give this some kind of width, like add set form. And add set form width. I wonder what that's going to do. It's going to log me out. That's what it's. Okay, let's sign back in. Okay, yeah. So now that's like in the spot. Okay. And so, we could add a new set where it's like push-ups and then have a number of reps in there. And kind of works. Kind of works. For some reason, I feel like there's more of a gap between these two than there's these two, though. What's up with that? Like this one has maybe there's not. Let's see. Computed 24 margin. This one also has 24 margin. So maybe it just is the way that it looks that makes it feel that way for some reason. But doesn't it feel like this has less padding or less margin here between these and these? And then when you kind of unwrap it, it feels like that goes away. It might have something to do with the grid gap. So like if we look at this, there's the margin is 24, but you can see that I can't really move my mouse, but you can see that there's spacing below the elements that's also in the blue box. Whereas down here, there is too, but there's more spacing that's in the blue box for some reason. And here it's like the height of each of these things is 52. And here it's like the height of the ones on the top are 52, and then the ones on the bottom are less for some reason. Also, I think we can just get rid of that param cell before I forget, because that's not actually doing anything. Okay. Well, if the spacing's not perfect, I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment. But we can kind of see that we're making a bit of progress here on this page, feels like. Let's check the time. We are at time, actually. But since I started late, I might go a little longer here. I kind of want to do this heading thing as well. I feel like that's... Once I do that, this page is actually going to be mostly done. So let's see how much effort that takes. So first of all, we have these buttons, back and forward buttons, and those currently are just, A. If we add like a dot button on there, then we actually get that button UI to it. And this is another place where like I kind of want to actually use a grouped form control with buttons on the left and right. Let's see what this looks like here. I'm actually going to do a whole new line here just to test this out. So div.field, yes, dot is grouped, right? Or has add-ons. Has add-ons. And then div.control. I'm actually going to just kind of copy this bit here. And then we're going to have an input and input.input. And then we're going to have another button. And I guess this would be in a div.control as well. Is that how it works? Yep. And those are not is danger. Let's just get rid of that for now. And let's just see what this looks like. What's the problem here? Error. Template. Oh, so yeah. I don't know if this is the problem, but there is no set ID set here probably, so that needs to go away. Right. Okay, so now like this is kind of what that's going to look like. And I like that. And we can actually kind of just get rid of this all. Except for this, we got to remember to have this if not is today. And we need this probably still. Let's just put that there, I guess. Okey-doke. And then, you know, of course we need to get some icons there. Forwarded back arrows or something. Arrow. Chevron, maybe is what I should be searching for here. Chevron. Chevron left, chevron right, TI, chevron left, TI, chevron right. So now, you know, we've got, it doesn't have the title text because the date is visible in the actual date picker, and then somebody can just like click on that to change it. Or you can, you know, use your left and right buttons to change it. Oh yeah, but I have to actually make those interactive with these refs. Let's do, wait, didn't I? Oh no, I didn't. Okay. So this will actually be like a.button. And one goes to yesterday. One goes to tomorrow. So now, you know, if I click that, it goes to tomorrow, which is today, and then you can go back. And that way, you know, if you think about the way we had it before, it was a bit redundant because it was like the date in this big text. And then right next to that was this date picker that also had the date. And now the date picker is the, you know, it serves both functions. And this particular control is kind of an important one. So I'm going to make it big if I can. Is large, I guess. Control input is large, I guess is all I really need to do there. Input is large. I don't know if it has to be after the input or before, so I'm just going to do it after just in case. Okay, so that made that one nice and large. But I didn't fix the buttons. Okay, so now that's, you know, a nice big, maybe even a little too big, but at least it makes it obvious, right? And I also feel like that could be centered. I think there was a form thing for centering, right? Has add-ons centered? Yeah. Okay. And I might give that a little bit of padding as well. Let's do like MY or MB2. Did it work? No? Why not? Styles. MB4. Oh, maybe because of the flex thing. I mean, I feel like that shouldn't really. No, I don't think that should really matter, right? $16. If I do MB1, 4, but it's still, that, yeah, okay. So I guess it is just, like if I do this MB6, yeah, so it's kind of just a matter of how much you actually want. With MB4, it was exactly the same as it was without it, I guess. So it was hard to tell that it was working. Okie doke. So with this, and if we check out the responsive view, it still is working kind of as we would expect here. And the UI now for the responsive view, I mean, we still have this thing where there's this extra little bit of padding here that I don't like. And it's kind of annoying me. Why is that a thing? Field has add-on cell. Cell. I wonder, so I think maybe this, I need to wrap this in another like dot cell. Let's do div.cell to make that explicit. And then put the actual field and everything inside the field inside that cell. Oh, hey, yeah. So that fixed it. Okay. So now we've got some nice alignment going on. Seems pretty good. And the add new set thing is still a little bit, doesn't quite fit in exactly, but that's all right. And this X business, it feels like that really stands out a lot more than I want it to. I still want to have the danger, but I think we might want it to be like like something like this light version, maybe, or like an outline version is outlined. We can try both of those and see what they look like. So is light. That works pretty well. What about is outlined? That doesn't work quite as well because the border is messed up where it's grouped with the select. So we can go with is light. Seems to be okay. Okay, so I mean, still far from perfect, but I feel like this page is kind of getting to the point where it's sort of looking like what I would picture it to look like. I really don't like this assisted wait icon. I keep seeing that and I'm like, it just doesn't seem, I'm like, what is that? It doesn't immediately register in my mind the way that the other ones do. But I'm not sure what else I would use for it. I mean, when I think of assisted, I'm thinking like a cloud maybe. or like a feather, like something light, you know, something that's not heavy is what I'm thinking. But I feel like that's kind of a weird association. Like a wind or like a trampoline. I don't know. I guess the buoy thing might actually just be fine here. How come there's two with exactly the same text? How am I supposed to pick between them if they have the same name? I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, it's fine for now. Okay, so I'm thinking with that, you know, we made a lot of progress on this page. And like, especially in the mobile view, I feel like it's looking a lot better because we don't have a lot of redundant elements going on here. And it just makes it really kind of clean, you know? And the different inputs, they're like nicely aligned, and like the icons are aligned, and the icons are, or the units are included in the inputs. So it's all kind of really clear how things are tied together. The nav bar, I still wish, I feel like it's maybe a little bit too lacking in character. Like it's hard to differentiate the nav bar from the rest of the page, I guess is where I'm going with that. It feels like it's missing something. So what is it missing? Transparent nav bar? What does that do? Oh, it's like it makes it blend into the background better. I kind of want a... Like I'm wondering if there's a way to like make this like, yeah, like change the background color of the nav bar. Use primary, I guess. We could try that. Nav. And yeah, we can just do like dot nav bar dot is primary. See what that looks like. It makes it even more obvious that it kind of needs some padding on that thing as well. Like if I do margin bottom 4, and then I don't really like that color. What if I do like is dark? I don't really like that either, but at least it's a little more obvious. If we switch it out of the, yeah, that just looks really weird. Well, that's just messed up somehow. Okay, well, whatever. We can worry about that later. One thing with these UI frameworks is you can put in like your own custom kind of colors and theming, which is something that I haven't really done yet, but might do, where it's like the primary, when we do like is primary on the nav bar, instead of being that like Bulma, whatever, teal, seafoam green, turquoise, it would be more, you know, whatever color we want to have as our primary color in our app, and then we could reuse that color in various places. But anyway, I think I'm actually going to wrap up there. So let's make these commits. Let's see, make sure that these are all actually used somewhere because I can't remember anymore. Add set form, so that one is used. Param name. See, that one's not used anymore, so we can actually delete that class. And yeah, should be good. What about today input? Is that used? No, so we can actually delete that class as well. And I should be able to refresh this and see it looking the same. Yeah. Okay. And then, so we can commit that. We can commit the layout update, which is basically just adding this tabler icon. And in fact, so one thing too, like we have this work in progress commit here. This is a pattern that I like to do. You know, when I was switching to a different commit, it's like I just committed my work in progress changes as this temporary commit. I call it WIP so I don't forget that it's not a real commit. It's not fully fleshed out. And then I can just like undo that commit. And it will take those changes that I made in that commit and just, you know, put them back into my staging. And then I can just kind of add the new stuff that I just added as well and commit, you know, all of that, kind of amend the commit. You can also use like git commit -- amend instead of undoing it. It's basically the same thing. But I'm actually going to first of all stage this bit here because this I want to have as its own commit. So we're adding tabler icons from CDN. And then maybe I'll do another one here where it's like add margins to layout, because that does technically affect every page. And then what are we changing here? Oh yeah, that was like a bug fix. So I'm going to do a separate commit for that as well. Always set parameters to empty array when creating exercises. And then these other changes here are just updating UI of today page. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, and we can push those. Oops, typoed it. Okie doke. Well, I guess that's it. Sorry for the late start today, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.